There are forces that do not attack your prosperity from the outside, but slowly dissolve it from within. Long before coins disappear, before opportunities close, before doors seem to resist your knock, something subtle begins to fracture inside the human spirit. Jewish wisdom has always taught that blessing is not random, and lack is not accidental. There is a spiritual architecture behind abundance, and there are fractures that interrupt its flow. If this message has found you, pause for a moment. Not by coincidence, not by algorithm, but by alignment. There are moments when the soul is ready to hear what it once ignored. Before we go deeper into this sacred teaching, I invite you to subscribe to the channel Jewish Wisdom. When you subscribe, you are not just supporting a platform. You are helping preserve ancient light in a generation that desperately needs spiritual clarity. Every subscription strengthens this mission of bringing Torah-based insight into modern life. Now write this in the comments. I am ready to restore my flow of blessing. Write it with intention. In Jewish thought, words are not empty sounds. The world itself was spoken into existence. Creation began with speech. When you declare something aligned with truth, you participate in that creative force. There is a verse in the Torah, in the book of Devarim, that says, "For it is he who gives you the power to create wealth." Notice the precision. It does not say he gives wealth automatically. It says he gives the power. Power implies responsibility. It implies alignment. It implies conditions that allow the power to function correctly. The sages of Israel have long understood that prosperity is not merely financial gain. The Hebrew concept of blessing barakah carries the idea of expansion, increase, multiplication. It is life unfolding in its fullness. Prosperity in Jewish teaching includes peace in the home, clarity of mind, integrity of character, and yes, material stability. But material abundance without spiritual alignment is considered unstable, like a house built without foundation. Many people chase prosperity as if it was something external, something to be hunted. Jewish tradition teaches the opposite. Abundance flows where there is alignment. It gathers where there is integrity. It increases where there is consciousness. When flow stops, the first place to examine is not the market, not the government, not even the economy. The first place to examine is the heart. There are patterns, subtle and often unnoticed, that quietly interrupt the current of blessing. They do not scream. They do not announce themselves. They operate beneath awareness, and because they are invisible, they are powerful. Imagine a river flowing from a mountain. The source is pure, continuous, unstoppable. But along the path, stones, debris, and fallen branches begin to accumulate. The river does not cease to exist. The source does not dry up, but the flow becomes obstructed. The problem is not at the source. It is along the channel. Jewish wisdom insists that the divine source of abundance does not fluctuate according to mood. The eternal is consistent. What fluctuates is the human vessel. The vessel can crack through negativity. It can narrow through fear. It can contaminate through dishonesty. And when the vessel is compromised, the flow appears to diminish. The prophet Haggai once rebuked the people of Israel with a piercing metaphor. You earn wages only to put them into a bag with holes. It was not a financial lesson alone. It was a spiritual diagnosis. Effort without alignment creates leakage. Action without integrity weakens results. We live in a world obsessed with tactics. Increase your income this way. Invest here. Scale this. Optimize that. But ancient Jewish teaching asks a more penetrating question. Is your inner structure aligned to sustain what you are asking for? Prosperity is not just about receiving more. It is about becoming capable of holding more. There are behaviors, attitudes, and spiritual distortions that gradually erode that capacity. They are not always dramatic sins. Often, they are quiet habits, subtle compromises, small shifts in consciousness that over time create spiritual distance. One of the most dangerous illusions is believing that prosperity is purely mechanical. Work harder, and you will automatically prosper. While effort is sacred in Judaism, it is never disconnected from spiritual ethics. The Torah consistently ties material blessing to moral alignment. Not perfection, but direction. The book of Psalms declares that the righteous flourish like a palm tree. Why a palm tree? Because it grows straight upward. It does not twist according to external pressure. It maintains direction. Prosperity, in Jewish symbolism, follows vertical alignment before horizontal expansion. In other words, the relationship with the divine precedes the multiplication of resources. There are 9 specific forces that Jewish teaching identifies as corrosive to prosperity. They operate like spiritual termites, weakening the internal beams of a person's life. They may not collapse everything immediately, but over time, they destabilize the structure. Some of these forces are emotional, some are ethical, some are mental. All of them are spiritual. You may recognize some of them in yourself, not as condemnation, but as awakening. Jewish wisdom is never about shame. It is about teshuvah, realignment, return. The moment awareness enters, correction becomes possible. Prosperity in the Hebrew worldview is deeply relational. It flows through covenant. It flows through gratitude. It flows through generosity. It flows through humility. When these channels are blocked, abundance does not disappear. It waits. This message is not about superstition or mystical shortcuts. It is about ancient principles that governed the lives of patriarchs, prophets, kings, and sages. Abraham prospered, not merely because he was industrious, but because he was aligned. Isaac prospered in famine because he operated within covenant. Joseph prospered in prison because his integrity preceded his elevation. The pattern is consistent. Inner alignment precedes outer increase. As we continue, you will begin to see these 9 destructive patterns clearly. You may feel discomfort. That discomfort is not rejection. It is revelation. It is the moment when the soul realizes that the blockage is not destiny. It is adjustable. Prosperity is not a lottery. It is a flow. And flow requires openness, clarity, and structure. In the quiet of your own heart, ask yourself, where has my flow felt restricted? Where have I felt like I am working but not advancing? Where have I sensed effort without multiplication? The answers are not far. They are waiting beneath distraction. The Torah is not an ancient book of outdated rules. It is a blueprint for sustained blessing. It teaches that wealth gained without integrity fractures the soul. It teaches that generosity expands capacity. It teaches that gratitude multiplies what already exists. Before we unveil the specific forces that undermine prosperity, allow this truth to settle within you. Nothing is permanently broken. In Jewish thought, the gate of return is never closed. The same spiritual laws that allow flow to be obstructed allow it to be restored. If you feel resistance inside, do not run from it. Lean into it. Awareness is the first act of restoration. The Eternal does not withhold out of cruelty. Often, withholding is protection. Sometimes what we call lack is misalignment. And misalignment can be corrected. You are not here to struggle endlessly. You are here to align, to build, to expand in a way that is stable and honorable. Stay attentive. Listen not only with your ears, but with your conscience. What is about to be revealed is not new information. It is ancient wisdom rediscovered. And when you recognize the patterns that may have been quietly weakening your prosperity, do not respond with guilt. Respond with resolve. The river is still flowing at the source. The question is whether the channel is clear. There is a teaching hidden in plain sight within the Torah, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The verse in Devarim declares with unmistakable clarity, "For it is he who gives you the power to create wealth." The Hebrew word used for power is koach. It does not mean money. It does not mean opportunity. It means capacity, strength, inner force. Wealth, in the biblical worldview, is the result of a spiritual capacity functioning correctly. This is where the revelation begins. If wealth depends on capacity, then anything that weakens capacity will quietly diminish prosperity. The Torah never reduces blessing to luck. It ties abundance to covenant, consciousness, and character. The Tanakh consistently shows that when Israel aligned with divine principles, increase followed. When alignment fractured, decline began not as punishment alone, but as consequence. The book of Mishlei, Proverbs, teaches that the blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no sorrow with it. The sages interpret this to mean that true prosperity carries peace with it. If gain brings anxiety, conflict, or moral compromise, something is misaligned. Jewish teaching does not glorify wealth detached from righteousness. It glorifies harmony between material and spiritual life. Now listen carefully. The 9 things that destroy prosperity are not random mistakes. They are spiritual distortions that shrink coach, that weaken inner capacity. The Zohar, the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, teaches that abundance flows like light through vessels. If the vessel is cracked, the light spills. If the vessel is narrow, the light is restricted. The source remains infinite. The limitation is in the container. The first corrosive force is a consciousness of scarcity. Not prudence, not responsibility, but fear rooted in mistrust. When a person believes there will never be enough, they unconsciously close themselves to flow. The Israelites in the wilderness experienced manna falling daily, yet when they tried to hoard it out of fear, it spoiled. The message was clear. Anxiety disrupts provision. Trust stabilizes it. The second destructive force is ingratitude. In Jewish practice, gratitude is not polite behavior. It is spiritual architecture. The word Yehudi, from which the term Jew originates, comes from the root hoda, meaning gratitude. Identity itself is tied to thankfulness. When gratitude disappears, perception narrows. A person stops seeing what is already present and becomes blind to opportunity. The Talmud teaches that one who is grateful for little is worthy of much. The third force is dishonesty, even in subtle forms. The Torah repeatedly emphasizes honest weights and measures. Why such detail? Because integrity in small transactions shapes the soul's structure. When a person bends truth for convenience, they weaken their vessel. Prosperity built on distortion cannot sustain itself. It fractures under its own instability. The fourth force is withholding generosity. Kisadaka, often translated as charity, actually means righteousness. Giving is not optional kindness in Judaism. It is alignment with divine flow. The Talmud boldly states that giving does not reduce wealth, it protects it. When a person refuses to give, they constrict the channel. When they give wisely and willingly, they expand it. The fifth destructive element is envy. Envy is not mere admiration. It is resentment of another's blessing. The sages warn that envy rots the bones. Why such strong language? Because envy corrodes contentment and distorts perception. Instead of building one's own path, the envious soul fixates on someone else's portion. In doing so, it abandons its own potential. The sixth force is arrogance. The Torah warns, lest you say in your heart, "My power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth." Pride disconnects the individual from the source. When a person believes they are self-created, they detach from covenant. Humility, in Jewish thought, is not weakness. It is accurate awareness. It recognizes partnership with the divine. The seventh is constant complaint. The wilderness generation repeatedly complained, despite miracles. Complaint shifts focus from possibility to lack. It magnifies absence and minimizes provision. The rabbis teach that words shape spiritual reality. Repeated negativity forms a pattern in consciousness that repels expansion. The eighth force is misalignment with purpose. In Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, it is written that where there is no vision, there is chaos. When a person pursues income detached from calling, the energy becomes fragmented. Prosperity flows more naturally when work aligns with values and identity. It is not about perfection of career. It is about coherence of direction. The ninth force is spiritual neglect, not ritual for ritual's sake, but absence of reflection, prayer, study, or introspection. Jewish tradition emphasizes daily connection with the divine because awareness sustains alignment. Without recalibration, distraction accumulates. A neglected soul gradually loses clarity, and clarity is essential for wise decision-making. These nine are not curses, they are mirrors. Each one shrinks coach. Each one narrows the vessel. The revelation is not that heaven withholds prosperity, but that human consciousness often constricts it. Do you feel the weight of this? Not as accusation, but as awakening. If you value teachings like this, and you want more depth rooted in authentic Jewish wisdom, you can support this channel through the thanks button below the video. Contribute whatever you feel led to give. Your support sustains the sharing of these ancient truths. The Torah's message is not fatalistic. It does not say, once you are, blessing disappears forever. It says return, realign, repair the vessel. Strengthen the capacity. Teshuvah is not merely repentance, it is restoration of flow. The prophets did not simply warn of consequences, they offered return. The Psalms do not merely lament struggle, they reaffirm trust. The rabbinic tradition does not condemn human weakness, it guides human growth. Imagine again the river. Remove the stones, and the current strengthens. Repair the cracks, and the vessel holds more light. Shift consciousness, and opportunities that were once invisible become visible. The Eternal continues to give coach. The question is whether the channel is clear enough to receive and sustain it. Prosperity in Jewish teaching is not accidental. It is covenantal, it is ethical, it is spiritual. And when you understand what weakens it, you begin to understand how to protect it. What has been revealed here is not modern motivational thinking. It is ancient architecture. It has shaped generations who survived exile, persecution, and displacement, yet rebuilt, prospered, and endured. The same principles apply now. The same flow is available. The same coach is being offered. The revelation is simple, but profound. Prosperity does not collapse without cause. It erodes through unnoticed patterns, and what erodes can be rebuilt. The source has not diminished. The invitation remains open. Once a person becomes aware of what weakens prosperity, the next sacred step is restoration. Jewish wisdom is never satisfied with diagnosis alone. It always moves toward correction. The Torah does not expose in order to shame. It reveals in order to rebuild. And rebuilding begins not with dramatic gestures, but with daily, intentional alignment. If scarcity thinking narrows the vessel, then trust expands it. Trust in Jewish thought is not passive optimism. It is active confidence rooted in covenant. The patriarch Abraham walked into unknown lands without guarantees, yet he moved with certainty that provision would accompany obedience. To apply this in daily life means shifting internal language. Instead of repeating "there is never enough," begin affirming the source is constant. This does not deny reality, it reframes it. The mind that expects limitation will unconsciously create it. The mind that expects guidance will recognize opportunity. If ingratitude blocks expansion, then daily gratitude multiplies capacity. In Jewish tradition, the day begins with Modeh Ani, a simple prayer of thanks upon waking. Before analyzing problems, before checking messages, before calculating concerns, gratitude establishes spiritual posture. You can implement this immediately. Each morning, acknowledge 3 specific provisions already present in your life. Not vague positivity, but precise recognition. Gratitude sharpens perception, and perception precedes prosperity. If dishonesty fractures structure, integrity restores it. This is not limited to business contracts. It includes private commitments, spoken promises, even the small things no one else sees. The Talmud teaches that a person is measured by how they handle what seems insignificant. Begin examining your daily interactions. Are your words consistent with your actions? Are your transactions transparent? Each correction strengthens the vessel. Generosity is perhaps the most transformative practice. Tzedakah is not reserved for the wealthy. It is the pathway to becoming spiritually wealthy. Giving interrupts fear. It declares that provision flows, not stagnates. Even a small, consistent act of giving realigns the heart. Choose a percentage, however modest, and dedicate it to meaningful support. Over time, you will notice something subtle shift inside you. The grip of anxiety loosens. The awareness of abundance grows. Envy can be healed through blessing others intentionally. Instead of silently resenting someone's success, speak a blessing over it. In Jewish thought, words shape inner reality. When you celebrate another's growth, you align yourself with expansion instead of contraction. You move from comparison to inspiration, and inspiration energizes action. Humility can be cultivated through remembrance. The Torah instructs repeatedly, remember where you came from. Remember the wilderness. Remember dependence. When pride begins to whisper, pause, and recall that every ability you possess is entrusted, not self-generated. Humility keeps the channel open because it keeps you connected to the source. Complaint can be replaced with constructive speech. This does not mean ignoring hardship. It means choosing language that builds rather than erodes. Instead of saying nothing works for me, say I am learning what needs adjustment. This subtle shift preserves dignity and possibility. Jewish ethics placed immense emphasis on guarding speech because words are creative instruments. Misalignment with purpose requires honest introspection. Ask yourself, does my daily work reflect my values? Am I pursuing gain at the cost of peace? You may not change careers overnight, but you can begin aligning intention. Bring integrity into whatever you do. Prosperity grows where coherence exists. Spiritual neglect is corrected through rhythm. Establish moments of study, prayer, or quiet reflection. Even 15 minutes daily dedicated to Torah insight or contemplative silence recalibrates the soul. Jewish life is structured around rhythm precisely because rhythm sustains awareness. Without rhythm, distraction takes over. Write this in the comments. I rebuild my vessel with wisdom. Let it be more than text. Let it be commitment. And if you enjoy content like this, and you want to support this mission, we have a resource in the description that offers valuable insights into Jewish secrets of prosperity, while also helping us continue here on YouTube. Your support strengthens this space of learning. Restoration is not dramatic. It is disciplined. It is daily. It is deliberate. The sages teach that small, consistent corrections outweigh occasional grand gestures. A cracked vessel is not discarded. It is repaired. Imagine again the metaphor of light flowing through a container. Each act of gratitude polishes the surface. Each act of integrity seals a fracture. Each act of generosity widens the opening. Each act of humility strengthens the base. Over time, something shifts. Opportunities that once felt distant begin to appear within reach. Decisions become clearer. Anxiety reduces. You notice that effort produces more proportional results. This is not magic. It is alignment. Prosperity in Jewish understanding is covenantal harmony expressed materially. When inner alignment stabilizes, outer stability follows. It may not be instant, but it becomes sustainable. There is a reason Jewish communities throughout history rebuilt after exile and loss. They understood that prosperity is not luck, it is structure. When structure is restored, rebuilding becomes possible even in adverse conditions. Do not underestimate the power of incremental change. A daily moment of gratitude, a consistent act of giving, a correction in speech, a return to study. These seem small, but spiritually they are architectural. You are not waiting for heaven to decide your fate. You are participating in the shaping of your capacity. Coach is being offered continuously. Strengthen the vessel, and the strength will manifest. The goal is not merely financial improvement, it is wholeness. When prosperity aligns with integrity, peace accompanies it. When abundance flows through humility, it remains stable. This is how ancient teaching becomes modern transformation. Not through shortcuts, but through alignment. Not through superstition, but through disciplined consciousness. The river has always been flowing. The question is no longer whether the source is generous. The question is whether the channel is clear. And you now know how to clear it. There is a story told in the rabbinic tradition about a man who spent years praying for prosperity. Every day he asked for success, for expansion, for relief from pressure. Yet nothing seemed to change. One evening, an elder in his community asked him a simple question. If heaven poured abundance into your life tonight, would your character be strong enough to hold it tomorrow? The man had never considered that question. He had only focused on receiving, never on becoming. That is the heart of everything we have explored. Prosperity is not merely something that arrives. It is something that must be sustained. And sustainability is spiritual maturity expressed in daily life. In Jewish thought, the word for wealth, Osher, shares linguistic depth with words connected to happiness and inner stability. True prosperity is not chaotic gain. It is integrated increase. It is the kind of abundance that does not destroy your peace, does not fracture your family, does not corrode your soul. It is expansion with alignment. Imagine a craftsman shaping a vessel from clay. If the walls are thin, it collapses under pressure. If the base is uneven, it tips. But when the structure is balanced, it can hold water without fear of cracking. The divine is not reluctant to fill vessels. The question has always been about structure. Perhaps as you listened, you recognized one of the 9 forces within yourself. Perhaps you saw traces of scarcity thinking, or subtle pride, or the quiet habit of complaint. Do not interpret that awareness as condemnation. In Jewish wisdom, awareness is already mercy. To see clearly is to begin healing. There are people who chase prosperity externally for decades and never pause to examine their inner architecture. You have paused. That alone changes direction. That alone reopens possibility. The Psalms declare that those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Sowing implies participation. It implies deliberate action aligned with trust. Even if past decisions weakened your flow, correction is always available. Teshuvah is not a concept of shame. It is a pathway of restoration. It means return. Return to integrity. Return to gratitude. Return to generosity. Return to humility. Return to conscious connection. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your life 1 year from now, not a fantasy of sudden wealth, but a stable, honorable, peaceful expansion. See yourself making decisions with clarity. See yourself giving without fear. See yourself speaking with discipline. See yourself walking in purpose. That image is not unrealistic. It is the natural outcome of alignment sustained over time. If something in this message resonated deeply, write in the comments. I choose alignment over fear. Let it be your declaration. Let it mark a turning point. Sometimes transformation begins with a sentence spoken sincerely. Prosperity in Jewish understanding is never isolated from faith. It is never disconnected from action. It is never divorced from ethics. It is the fruit of covenant lived consistently. When character and consciousness rise, capacity expands. And if this teaching has touched you, if you sense that you are stepping into a deeper understanding of abundance, I invite you to explore the Jewish Wisdom ebook, and especially our resource Prosperity Judea Abundant. If you are enjoying this theme, we have an ebook, Prosperity Judea Abundant. To access it, the link is in the description of this video or in the first pinned comment. It was created to guide you even further into the practical and spiritual principles that sustain prosperity according to ancient Jewish wisdom. By acquiring it, you not only deepen your own journey, you also help us continue sharing these teachings here. Remember this: heaven is not closed. The source has never been diminished. What changes is the vessel. And vessels can be strengthened. Channels can be cleared. Flow can be restored. You were not created to live in constant restriction. You were created with coach, with capacity. Strengthen your inner structure, and abundance will no longer feel distant or fragile. It will feel stable. It will feel deserved. It will feel aligned. May your integrity protect your increase. May your gratitude multiply your portion. May your generosity expand your capacity. And may your prosperity be anchored in wisdom so deeply that nothing can shake it. When alignment becomes your foundation, abundance becomes your natural state.